astonishment, silence, and deep contemplation are the emotions that washed over me. After researching and learning about more than 100 Black public figures connected to sacred life or death moments and the most unexpected farewells right on the gospel pulpit. Hello everyone, we are Our Memory Vault. And this is the video 17 Gospel Legends and Unfinished Hymns in their final moments. This greatly impacts our perspective on faith, the fragility of life, and the dedication of artists down to their very last breath, and it might just leave you stunned. This video is perfect to play while you are resting, enjoying a meal with your family, or doing chores around the house. All the information in this video has been carefully researched and gathered from multiple sources. If there are any oversights, please leave a comment below to help our channel continue to grow. Please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and ring the notification bell to receive updates on our latest videos. Now, let us step right into the stories of our first figures. Andraé Crouch. Opening the list is a name that has become an eternal monument in the hearts of the public. Andraé Crouch, hailed by the world as the father of modern gospel music. Andraé created a revolution by skillfully weaving the smooth influences of soul and jazz into traditional hymns. His music possessed an intense magnetism, carrying prayers beyond the four walls of the church to reach millions of global listeners. Despite possessing a massive fortune with 7 prestigious Grammy Awards and having worked with legendary superstars like Michael Jackson, he always maintained an incredibly humble lifestyle. He still diligently stood on the podium, directing the choir at the very simple church where his late father used to preach. From a psychological perspective, this enduring attachment was not merely filial piety. It reflected a deep-seated need of the artist. The yearning to anchor his soul to the most original and sacred values amidst an entertainment world full of noise hustle and the temptations of fame. Entering his final years, Andraé's body had to brace itself to endure the depletion brought on by chronic illnesses. However, the flame of dedication and love for art within him never showed signs of fading. The image of him appearing at the rehearsal, preparing for his 50th anniversary career celebration, carried an immensely monumental symbolic meaning about the will to live. That day, as he slowly raised his conductor's baton to begin the song, "The Blood Will Never Lose Its Power," which was also the very first song he wrote dedicated to his late mother. No one in the auditorium suspected that it would be the final conducting beat of a legend. The fact that the baton unexpectedly slipped from his hand and his body quietly let go on the stage did not carry the color of sorrow or fear. On the contrary, it seemed like an incredibly gentle transition. He did not collapse before fate. He simply closed his symphony in the earthly realm to step onto a more peaceful shore. Through a philosophical lens on life, the passing of Andraé Crouch is a great poem about absolute dedication. The fact that an artist chose to dedicate the entirety of his final moments of consciousness to immerse himself in music at the very place where his love and faith began is truly a rare privilege from the Creator, the image of the microphone in the church that night remaining lit. Even though the great conductor had departed, left a beautiful metaphor in the hearts of the audience. Even though the human physical body may fade according to the laws of time, the healing melodies he left behind will echo forever. They will continue to comfort and guide lost souls back to peace and the light of eternal love in his stead. Tamela Mann. In the second position, we take a moment of quiet reflection to discuss Tamela Mann. A voice like a cool, refreshing stream, always bringing comfort to souls carrying many wounds. When she raises her voice in the song, "Take Me to the King," millions of hearts seem to be soothed, all sorrows washed away. Tamela not only sings with top-tier vocal technique, but she sings with the deep empathy of an experienced woman. Recently, public opinion and the online community fell into a state of shock over spreading rumors that Tamela had suddenly passed away right on stage due to complications from underlying illnesses. Although the truth is that the female artist is currently safe and continues to dedicate herself, the rapid spread of this rumor inadvertently stripped bare a thought-provoking reality about the health of artists and how the public views them. We need to look at this incident from a deeper socio-psychological analytical perspective. Why did audiences so easily believe such a tragic scenario? The answer lies in the harsh reality of artists who always have to drain themselves for tour schedules. Spiritual music artists like Tamela are often framed by society into the image of strong black women. Flowers of steel spiritual pillars who are never allowed to be weak or collapse. The pressure to always appear with a flawless exterior, to always wear a radiant smile to uplift the faith of tens of thousands of others, has inadvertently robbed them of the right to take care of themselves. Silently enduring fatigue, hiding signs of physical depletion to continue serving the audience is an incredibly common reality, a silent sacrifice within the art world. This rumored event, although untrue, acted as a stern wake-up call sent to all of us. It reminds us of a simple but often forgotten truth. The great idols upon whom we always focus our admiration ultimately are also just ordinary human beings. They carry within them biological finiteness and also no pain and fatigue. Loving an artist should not just stop at praising brilliant performances or demanding that they constantly dedicate themselves without rest. True love also lies in tolerance, understanding, allowing them to rest the right to be weak and prioritizing the protection of their personal health. Fortunately, Tamela Mann is still present here with us, but the reminder to cherish and protect legends while they are still smiling on stage is never a superfluous lesson. The invisible pressures weighing on Tamela Mann's shoulders have given us much to ponder, but the final transmitted legacy of a messenger. In the third position coming up is what truly moves the human heart. Please do not take your eyes off the screen because the most sacred moments are still waiting. Walter Hawkins. Continuing the list in the third position is Walter Hawkins, a man carrying a great soul, respectfully hailed by the public as the messenger of healing. As the founder and leader of the Love Center Choir, Walter possessed an innate ability to soothe broken hearts, turning despair into hope through highly narrative arrangements in the soul music genre. Entering the final years of his life, he had to brace himself to fight against physical depletion brought on by a severe illness. Yet what makes people admire him is that while his body grew weaker by the day, his soul became increasingly sharp, lucid, and overflowing with artistic inspiration. His desire to compose was so intense that he once confided he feared the beautiful melodies in his head would vanish before he had the chance to write them down, more than he feared the approaching separation of human life. Independence Day 2010 is an indelible historical milestone for the Love Center community. Despite his body being utterly depleted, Walter remained determined to put on his ceremonial robes, stepping onto the pulpit to preside over his final Sunday service. Through the lens of behavioral psychology, the highly symbolic moment when he slowly stepped down from the podium and gently placed his hand on the shoulder of a 13-year-old boy, a young student he was dedicatedly mentoring, was not merely a gesture of affection. It was an incredibly sacred passing the torch ritual between two generations of artists. The event of him quietly closing his eyes and sinking into eternal sleep right after fully entrusting his faith to the next generation does not carry the meaning of a tragic end. On the contrary, it is the serene letting go of a sculptor who has excellently completed the final masterpiece of his life. When his mission on earth was fulfilled, that tired body finally allowed itself to Momiti and Amre. For Paul, Monper Mefini, Beard Sen Ben Mendisa. The passing of Walter Hawkins left a silence full of mourning in the music world, but simultaneously overflowing with deep respect. The scene by his hospital bed with unfinished music manuscripts bearing the words, "Thank you, Lord, for all that you have brought," is ironclad proof of an optimistic spirit that could not be shaken by any adversity. From a humanistic perspective, Walter left humanity a grand lesson on how to face the finiteness of human life. No matter how much the body is eroded by time or illness, we still have the right to decide our mindset when we leave. He chose to depart not in resentment or fear, but with his head held high, leaving a legacy of love and songs that continue to embrace and warm countless generations to come. Joe Ligon. In the fourth position, we direct our admiration toward Joe Ligon, the leader bearing the heart of a proud lion, belonging to the legendary group The Mighty Clouds of Joy. Choosing not to follow the smooth, melodic, beaten path of traditional hymns, Joe brought to the stage a fierce explosion, perfectly combining the primal power of rock, funk, and soul. His raspy, resounding voice like rolling thunder was not merely top-tier vocal technique. Through the lens of psychological analysis, it was the crystallization of an incredibly lonely childhood, growing up amidst the cold walls of an orphanage, along with countless uncompensable emotional deficits. On stage, Joe always burned his brightest, wringing out every drop of sweat as if tomorrow would never come. Pouring his entire vitality into every musical note was how he protected and healed the orphan child, always terrified of abandonment, hidden deep within his consciousness. The group's 50th anniversary celebration in Atlanta was an emotional reunion night, but no one suspected that it would also be the final stage, closing his illustrious artistic life. Throughout the performance, people still saw a fiery Joe Ligon, fully dedicating his most powerful energy sources to thousands of audience members. When the velvet curtain closed and he stepped backstage, he still wore a radiant smile and waved goodbye to his colleagues. The fact that he collapsed and took his last breath just a few minutes later in the waiting room was a quiet incident but carried the weight of 1,000 pounds. However, what makes the public shed tears of admiration is his final quote before closing his eyes: "I wanted to leave this way, singing and drenched in the sweat of dedication." That quote is a beautifully magnificent manifesto of the self-respect and immortal passion of a true artist. Joe Ligon did not collapse before the irony of destiny. He fully completed the promise to his own life ideal. Through a philosophical perspective, Joe's life is proof that a person can absolutely build a great ending from the darkest starting points. The sweat towel placed solemnly on his coffin is not just a keepsake. It is transformed into an enduring symbol of tireless artistic labor. He has departed, but the flame of enthusiasm and the brilliant songs of the mighty clouds of joy will forever be a lighthouse, illuminating the way for souls seeking strength to overcome the storms of life. LaShun Pace. Moving to the 5th position, we pause before the life of LaShun Pace, a woman affectionately hailed by the public as the Queen of Gospel Sorrows. LaShun's voice carried a strange weight, both sharp as if cutting into the soul and warm like a sheltering embrace. People sought out her music to be healed, but very few truly understood the real origin of those intense vibrations. Through the lens of psychology, her tear-soaked melodies were a desperate effort to patch up the shattered heart of a mother. The tragedy of losing her young daughter Xenia at the age of 11 created a deep pit of despair that could not be filled. Instead of collapsing or uttering words of resentment at the funeral, LaShun chose to raise her voice in song. That extreme suppression of emotion turned her music into a religion of survival. In the final years of her life, her body had to brace itself to fight against bouts of chronic kidney failure and severe diabetes. A dense dialysis schedule drained her vitality, but could not stop her from stepping onto small pulpits in rural areas. Her persistent singing was not for fame or money, but out of a fierce belief. Every song raised might be saving a soul out there carrying wounds just like hers. Her passing took place on a fateful car ride as she was on her way to attend a memorial service for mothers who had lost children. The song she hummed in the car, "There's a leak in this old building," carried a profoundly deep metaphorical meaning. That old building was her tired body covered in scars. It had depleted its strength and no longer had the capacity to hold a soul far too great. Her quietly falling asleep in the car seat with a serene smile still lingering on her lips is an ending full of poetry. This event reminds us of a profound life philosophy. There are people who spend their whole lives being an anchor for others, even though they themselves carry bleeding wounds. The passing of LaShun Pace is not a tragedy, but the complete release for a mother who fulfilled her mission of soothing the human realm, now returning to reunite with her little child in a place where there is no more pain. Daryl Coley. In the 6th position, we reflect on the life of Daryl Coley, a rare, sacred tenor voice of American music. Daryl's childhood was days submerged in an empty silence after the sudden passing of his mother. Taking refuge in the basement of the church, that orphaned boy used music as his only means to connect with the world. His voice was so extraordinary that it could freely soar from the quiet spaces of hymns to the complexity of jazz without any hindrance. However, behind the perfection on stage was a painful secret. For the entire final decade of his life, he silently endured the devastation of end-stage diabetes, which caused his vocal cords to harden and his breathing to become increasingly fragile. The fact that an artist chose to hide his illness to continue dedicating himself reflects an incredibly massive psychological fear, the fear of losing his identity. To Daryl, not being able to sing was even scarier than death. The musical party celebrating his 59th birthday became a haunting historical milestone. As the melody moved toward the highest notes, he poured all the remaining vitality of an exhausting body to reach a vocal range surpassing all biological limits. The event of him collapsing right at the most transcendent moment is not a mere physical incident. Through the lens of artistic philosophy, it was the moment when the great aspiration of the soul shattered the finite prison cage of the physical body. The scene of his hands still tightly gripping the microphone posture, even though his consciousness had sunk into a deep dream realm, carries a 1,000-pound weight regarding love for the profession. It is proof that humans can trade their very lives just to touch absolute perfection, even if only for a single time. Daryl Coley spent his final years in the silence of a coma, but the effort to reach the final musical note that night brought him straight into immortality. His story reminds us that the ultimate end of art is not longevity, but burning the most brilliantly before the candle goes out. Daryl Coley's desire to reach the perfect musical note has left so much mourning, but the silent sacrifice of a solid shoulder in the next position will make us choke up even more. Please continue to accompany us to uncover stories that have never been told. Beverly Crawford. Continuing the list in the 7th position, we direct our respect toward Beverly Crawford. Featured in many anecdotes of the gospel genre, Beverly's singing does not sparkle with ostentation. Rather, it is quiet and deep, like a diary recording the patience of a human life. In real life, Beverly appeared as a solid fortress wall, single-handedly caring for her ailing husband for many years without a single word of complaint. Through the lens of psychological analysis, those who always play the role of caregiver often carry extraordinary endurance, but they tend to ignore the cries for help from their own bodies. The invisible pressure of being the family pillar pushed her blood pressure illnesses into the shadows. The event that took place at the memorial service for a respected minister, the one who mentored her in her youth, is a film carrying far too many human metaphors. Donning a simple black dress, she stepped onto the pulpit and raised her voice, singing the song, "He's Done Enough." Every word sung initially seemed to be a tribute to the departed, but towards the end, it carried the resonance of a poignant self-reminder for herself. The moment she bowed deeply after the final musical note and never stood up straight again is a letting go full of philosophical meaning. That was not a fall. That was the serene surrender of a shoulder that had shouldered far too many storms. The scene of her hands still firmly gripping the wooden podium, her face slumped down, and the quietness of the yellow church lights took the tears of tens of thousands of people. The passing of Beverly Crawford is an aching wake-up call about the silent sacrifice of women. They always dedicate their entire strength to loving and caring for others to the point of forgetting that their own hearts also need to rest. He's done enough. That final lyric now becomes an invisible laurel wreath that humanity bestows exclusively upon her. She has done enough, has dedicated herself fully, and now is the time she is allowed to let go to step into eternity. Micah Stampley. In the 8th position, we look back at the deeply thoughtful story of Micah Stampley, a contemporary icon of spiritual music. Born from poverty, Micah rose up with a voice capable of awakening sleeping souls. The public viewed him as a healer, using music to soothe the pains of humanity. Amidst a world straining to fight against massive losses following the pandemic, Micah poured all his heart into recording the song War Cry, a work he described as an olive branch of peace sent to bleeding hearts. Let us analyze the instability of an artist during the creative process. The studio space, inherently considered the quietest sanctuary of an artist, became the place to witness an unforeseeable incident. The massive workload, the mental pressure of shouldering the mission to heal the common pain of society, resonating with a hidden old injury, created an extreme overload on his nervous system. After finishing recording the powerfully charged chorus, his gentle words, "Give me a few seconds. My head is a little dizzy," were the final warning bell the physical body sent to reason. The event of him slowly stepping back and passing out does not carry the color of violence. It is like a crystal vase that had held far too many heavy emotions, finally reaching the time it had to crack. The tragedy of Micah Stampley exposes a sorrowful paradox of the art world. The people who spend their whole lives writing healing love songs for the world are sometimes the ones who forget to heal themselves. He hid his own biological weaknesses simply because he did not want to trouble his loved ones. From a humanistic perspective, his quiet passing right next to the audio mixing console is an ultimate dedication. Micah excellently completed the symphony of his life, leaving Warcry as a spiritual protective shield for those left behind, even though he had to trade it with his very own life. Willie Neal Johnson. Moving to the 9th position, we reflect on a departure deeply imbued with the philosophy of Willie Neal Johnson, the fiery symbol of Southern gospel music. Throughout decades, Willie took his powerful voice wandering across stages, big and small, using music to awaken sleeping souls. The night celebrating his 30-year career in Texas was a fulfilling milestone where thousands of audiences stood up to praise him. Upon closing the program, Willie chose the song "Just a Rehearsal," a song carrying the message that this earthly life is just a stepping stone to prepare for an eternal life in heaven. The event that occurred right after the final musical note of that song is one of the most haunting moments in art history. When he stepped back and accidentally lost his balance due to a slippery floor, his fall was mistakenly thought by the crowd to be a theatrical staged act. Through the lens of socio-psychological analysis, the fact that the audience continued to clap and smile while the artist was collapsing exposes a sorrowful tragedy of the entertainment world. The boundary between painful reality and the halo of performance is sometimes blurred to a cruel degree. People have become so accustomed to seeing artists as emotion-generating machines to the point they forget that behind those lights is an incredibly fragile and easily broken biological body. The moment of realizing the truth when the microphone fell, creating a piercing sound, took the entire auditorium from extreme excitement straight down into the abyss of silence. The passing of Willie Neal Johnson does not carry the sorrow of an accident. It is like he excellently completed the rehearsal of his life. The final lyrics inadvertently became a perfect prophecy for his own destiny. To audiences who have experienced many ups and downs, Willie's story reminds us of a truth. No matter how brilliant the stage of life is, the time will come for the curtain to fall, and how we live every day is the most complete preparation for the moment we wave goodbye to the human realm. Reverend James Moore. In the 10th position, we pause before the silhouette of Reverend James Moore. He was a miraculous phenomenon of spiritual music, someone who turned the limiting flaws of his physical body into an extraordinary power. Losing his sight from childhood and having to endure persistent severe illnesses, James seemed to be stripped by the Creator of the light of his eyes. But in return, he was bestowed with an incredibly sharp eye of the soul. His singing voice was not merely sound. It was distilled from physical pain, the most brilliant light shining into hearts drowning in the darkness of despair. Audiences sought him out not just to hear singing, but to find a solid anchor of faith. From a psychological perspective, people carrying many wounds often tend to return to their roots when they feel the depletion of their vitality. On an October night in 1999, James's decision to return to the church in Detroit, where he was once a blind boy sitting listening to sermons in his childhood, carries the meaning of a great cycle. Even though his body was drained by prolonged dialysis sessions, he stood firm to raise his voice in the song, "He That Dwelleth in the Secret Place." The moment he quietly stepped back behind the pulpit, slowly collapsing right at the foot of the church's cross symbol, is a scene deeply imbued with poetry and salvation. That event does not carry panic, but it contains an absolute entrustment. He spent his whole life being an anchor for tens of thousands of people, shouldering the pains of humanity, and now he had the right to put that burden down right at the most sacred place. The departure of James Moore leaves a priceless lesson about fulfillment. It proves that no matter how flawed and dark our lives begin, if we maintain the flame of kindness and dedication, we will always find the most peaceful and brilliant haven for our souls at the end of the road. Keith Wonderboy Johnson. Continuing our list at the 11th position is Keith Johnson, affectionately known by the public as Wonderboy. This nickname was born because Keith possessed a pure soul and a crystal-clear voice, bringing a sense of peace like a child singing prayers. For nearly 3 decades, Keith traveled across tens of thousands of miles, bringing music to the smallest and most remote communities in America. However, behind that tireless dedication was an alarming reality about the lifestyle of performing artists. Having to constantly travel on long flights, enduring packed performance schedules, and facing invisible pressures caused them to ignore the whispering warning signs from their own body's biological system. Let us analyze the harshness of ignoring one's health. On a fateful night in 2022, after a rushed flight, Keith felt an instability in his chest. Yet the pressure of an artist, the fear of disappointing the audience, the responsibility to the community, forced him to brush aside that warning to keep smiling and complete the show. The event of his collapsing in the backstage waiting room just as he bent down to pick up a dropped handkerchief is an incredibly sorrowful metaphor. That small, weightless handkerchief inadvertently became the final tipping point that overwhelmed a body that had long been worn down. The passing of Keith Wonderboy Johnson, due to underlying complications following long flights, is a profound wake-up call. It strips bare a truth. Enthusiasm and passion cannot replace self-care. To our audience members who are caught in the busy cycle of work and family, Keith's story is a sincere piece of advice. Never ignore your body's signs of fatigue. Know how to stop at the right time, because you cannot continue to love or dedicate yourself to the world if your own physical temple is gradually failing. Frank Williams, in the 12th position. We look back at the haunting moment of Frank Williams, the founding soul of the renowned Mississippi Mass Choir. Frank was a shining example of the will to rise above. Born with a physical limitation in his legs, he turned physical discomfort into motivation to create lifetime musical works. In the eyes of millions, Frank was a symbol of overcoming adversity, someone who never stepped back before fate. On the night celebrating the group's 10th anniversary, everything was perfectly prepared to be broadcast live to millions of families across America. However, sometimes the pursuit of polished perfection inadvertently creates unpredictable traps. Through the lens of analyzing external pressures, the wooden floor being overly polished to serve the visual effects of television cameras became a fatal risk factor. When Frank, with his already labored steps, tried to step back to give space for other members to shine, an incident of lost balance occurred. His fall on a stage designed to be overly slick is a tragic paradox. It shows that in the effort to create flawless performances to satisfy media tastes, the most core safety values were neglected. The silence that enveloped the airwaves as the screen went black was not just the interruption of an entertainment program. It was a shock to millions of souls. The departure of Frank Williams, witnessed by his most beloved family members in the front row, is a wound hard to heal. Nevertheless, the legacy he left behind through the choir continues to live on forever. Frank's story brings a profound reflection. In a world that always highly values perfection and flashy halos, we need to learn to cherish rustic and safe values. Sometimes, unnecessary ostentation takes away our greatest human beings. Osinachi Nwachukwu. Moving to the 13th position, let us quiet our minds to listen to the weighty story of Osinachi Nwachukwu, a bright gem of the African continent. Unlike artists who grew up in luxury, Osinachi carried a past full of emotional wounds, having to endure the suffocation of a marriage lacking respect. When she raised her voice in the song Ekweme, it was not just a regular hymn, but the inner voice of millions of women confined by strict social prejudices. Through the lens of psychological analysis, Osinachi pouring her entire vitality into music was a perfect self-defense mechanism. She borrowed soaring musical notes to release suppressed hidden thoughts, turning the stage into the only place where her soul had the right to flutter freely. The performance night at the Abuja International Conference Center, before tens of thousands of audiences, was a historical stage, but also a place that witnessed a highly symbolic event. In a pure white dress, while singing the most climactic notes, carrying the desire for release, her body suddenly fell into a state of oxygen depletion due to a sudden asthma onset. Her struggling under the stage lights does not carry the color of sorrow, but it reflects a heartbreaking reality. The mental pressures accumulated from a life lacking love had silently eroded the resistance of a woman thought to be the strongest. The event of her collapsing and fading away amidst a sea of people carries the weight of a wake-up call. From a humanistic perspective, Osinachi's passing was not an end, but a beginning for a profound awakening movement regarding women's rights in her homeland. That final singing voice tore away the veil of silence, forcing society to reconsider the hidden corners behind the shell of a perfect family. She has departed, but the image of a resilient female artist daring to use music to fight for her own freedom and that of her peers will forever become an indelible legacy in the hearts of the public. Donald Vails. In the 14th position, we tip our hats to Donald Vails, a talented conductor who dedicated his entire life to acting as a bridge between classical music and the gospel genre. He was the creator of magnificent choirs, bringing an exquisite harmony between the elegance of academic art and the rustic sincerity of faith. In the role of a conductor, Donald always stood at the center, but his ultimate goal was never to make himself shine. From an artistic, philosophical perspective, a great conductor is someone who knows how to step back to support and honor the voices around them. And that very noble life philosophy inadvertently created a hauntingly fateful moment in his career. On a large-scale performance night at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, while passionately conducting hundreds of people harmonizing in the song Blessed Assurance, Donald took a step backward out of habit to yield the center space to a soaring female vocalist. However, the fragile boundary of the wooden podium's edge took away his balance. The slipping incident caused the conductor to fall right in the middle of the harmony at its most transcendent moment. The scene of his hands still tightly gripping the baton unconsciously as his body sank into a state of stillness is an image carrying an ultimate moving power. It symbolizes a fierce love for art, an inseparable bond with the mission of creating sound. The event that night turned the magnificent theater into a space of solemn silence. Although medicine wholeheartedly tried to save him, biological limits did not allow him to wake up again. The passing of Donald Vails brings a profound lesson about dedication. Sometimes the stepping back of an individual is to make room for eternal values to echo forever. He excellently fulfilled the role of a guide, and the final rest note he left behind is an unfillable void in the hearts of those who love the perfection of choral music. Shawn Jones. Continuing the list in the 15th position is Shawn Jones, a highly breakthrough phenomenon in spiritual music. Rising from neighborhoods filled with instability, music to Shawn was not an elegant pastime, but a sharp tool to survive and protect his soul from the temptations of the streets. His performance style carried a frantic, intense, and energy-filled aura. When Shawn raised his voice, it was the crystallization of anxieties, the roar of a person yearning to find light amidst the dark night. In his iconic song, he once declared that the word hallelujah to him was not a soft sigh but a loud cry to reclaim life. And then, the limits of the physical body spoke up during a widely broadcast live performance night. While transcending with the driving drum beats, Shawn poured the entire mind and vitality of a man into his final shout of hallelujah. Through the physiological and psychological lens, the excessive emotional explosion created a massive pressure, surpassing the endurance threshold of the nervous system and blood vessels. His slowly collapsing right on his drum set was not a surrender to fate. On the contrary, it was the most complete, most dedicated entrustment of a life to the ideal he always pursued. The sudden silence enveloping the stage as the broadcast cut off left an infinite sorrow. Shawn Jones burned the brightest before turning to ashes. His life sends a powerful message to audiences who are busy searching for the meaning of life. When you do something with all your heart, with uncalculating sincerity, that dedication will naturally become an immortal legacy. He used his entire breath to utter a word of gratitude to life, and that gratitude will forever echo in the minds of those left behind. Goldwire McClendon. In the 16th position, we pause before a story deeply imbued with the colors of a miracle Goldwire McClendon. During his middle-aged years, he was once stripped of his singing voice for 5 long years by a severe illness. For a person passionate about singing to have to live in hopeless silence is a highly cruel psychological sentence. But with extraordinary resilience, his voice miraculously returned more resounding and powerful than ever. The song "I Won't Complain" became his destined anthem, tied to a philosophy of living, freely accepting all arrangements of the Creator without any resentment. He became a symbol of rebirth, strongly inspiring the elderly generation. However, the impermanence of life always brings unpredictable surprises, right in the familiar church he was once attached to. After pouring all his heart into fully performing his signature song, he began to move toward the pulpit. A streak of rainwater resting on the floor from the stormy night before became the cause of a fateful slip. The loss of balance caused the octogenarian senior to fall, and the sound system immediately flickered and sank into darkness. Through a humanistic lens, that sudden dark space does not carry gloom, but is like a velvet curtain gently closing after an outstanding performance. When the lights came back on, the image of him lying still, his hands still tightly embracing the Bible, left an immeasurable emotion. Goldwire McClendon departed exactly in the spirit of the song he had just sung, without a single word of complaint. He lived fully every day additionally bestowed by the Creator, and when the time came to leave, he accepted it with absolute serenity. His story is an invaluable lesson in gratitude. No matter how thorny or uncertain life is, if we know how to maintain a calm mindset without resentment, we will always find fulfillment, even in the final moments of human life. Bishop Kirby Brown. Closing this entire list of 17 highly reflective stories is Bishop Kirby Brown, a living testament to boundless compassion. Hailing from an orphaned childhood, once having to sleep in dilapidated warehouses and pick up scraps of leftover food, Kirby understood better than anyone the utmost depths of poverty and the coldness of human relations. When rising to become a respected spiritual leader, he did not choose glamorous cathedrals, but dedicated all his heart to building shelters of love, protecting thousands of homeless people. He turned music and sermons into warm blankets wrapping around forlorn souls. From a psychological perspective, his ceaseless charitable works were his way of tenderly comforting and making up for his own childhood full of misfortune. The ceremony celebrating his 15th anniversary in office was a festival of gratitude. Below the podium were hundreds of eyes belonging to the lives he had saved. When he stood on the highest pulpit, his hand raising the cup in the Holy Communion ritual, a ritual symbolizing sacrifice and sharing the depletion of vitality accumulated from many years of overworking for the community, suddenly struck. The severe illness progressed so rapidly that the benevolent bishop gradually faded and collapsed right on the very sacred altar he always revered. The image of him falling amidst the prayers echoing around is a picture carrying the full weight of ultimate dedication. He spent a whole lifetime giving away love, turning himself into a cup poured full of hope for the wretched, and finally, he serenely offered his last drop of vitality to eternity. The departure of Bishop Kirby Brown carries an exquisitely beautiful cycle. From a homeless boy he built for himself a giant home in the hearts of 10,000 people, only to rest in peace right at the place he loved the most. His life is the most brilliant message about the value of compassion. When you live your fullest for others, your departure will never be a disappearance, but a transformation into eternity. Closing 17 highly philosophical stories about great legends, we become even more keenly aware of the fragility of human life and the sacred value of absolute dedication. Those artists spent their whole lives, right down to their very last breath, to bring comfort and faith to humanity. We respectfully wish our audience to always maintain peace in your souls, know how to cherish your own health, and have truly warm, fulfilling moments of love around the family dinner table. If the video brought you humanistic perspectives and meaningful moments of reflection, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to continue accompanying our memory vault in the next historical stories. Goodbye and see you again.